This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, so welcome to the February 2023 Planetarian Zoom workshop this time. I don't know what the difference between a workshop and a seminar is. Actually, I do. This is a workshop. And today we have Karrie Berglund, who is the Director of Education and the co-founder of Digitalis Education Solutions. And she's leading a workshop for us on planetarium marketing tips and tactics. So without the further ado, take it away, Karrie.
All right, thanks, Alan. And it's good to see everybody here. Many of you I know, some of you I don't, but hopefully we'll get to know each other a little bit more during this workshop today. Some of you have your videos turned off, but if you can do a quick show of hands, it might be your virtual hand if it's easier, or your real hand, depending on what you want to do. How many of you do some marketing for your organization? Yeah. Okay, we've got a good mix. I'm seeing probably about a third of the people raising their hands. Excellent. Well, let me share my screen so you can see a little bit about what we're going to be doing today. Everybody seeing my first slide there?
Yep.
Hopefully. Okay, good. So we are going to be talking about planetary marketing tips and tactics. And as Alan mentioned, I am a co-founder of Digitalis, and I wear many, many hats, one of which is marketing. To give you a sense, I started out from really not doing any marketing at all. I had worked at the Civic Science Center before Digitalis, and there we had a whole marketing staff, which was fantastic. And if you're lucky enough to be in that position, then hopefully you'll get something out of this today, or you can share what your marketing staff does and bring in a different perspective that way too. But I've been kind of learning as we go along. And although I typed it in wrong, Ken Miller was nice enough to point out that we actually have been in business longer than a month. Digitalis turned 20 in January of 2003, or January of this past year. So we launched in 2003. And I've been doing marketing all along. So what we're going to be doing today, if I can get there we go. We're going to first work together. We're going to talk about what that word marketing means and what it doesn't mean. We'll talk about some ideas for how you might market. I'll share one framework that we have found effective at Digitalis. And then if we have time, I'll have you think about that framework and how it relates to what you would do to put together a basic marketing plan. So Ellen mentioned that this is a workshop instead of a seminar, and that means that we're actually going to be sharing ideas and working together to hopefully come up with some strategies that we can share. So it's going to be a two-way communication rather than one way. So what we're going to be doing in just a minute is I'm going to be putting you in some small groups, and I'm just looking, we are up to 18 participants. I'm going to be breaking you into, I think we'll start with 4 groups, and that'll put about 4 or 5 people per group. And what I would like you to do in that group, in your breakout room, is to think about how you define the word marketing. And I'm not going to give you a huge amount of time to do that because we've got a lot to get done today. I'm going to give you 4 minutes. So I think I have to stop my share in order to do, oh no, I don't. It's been a while since I've done this breakout room thing. I don't have to stop my share. I'm going to do breakout rooms. And actually, before I do that, before I send you off into the breakout rooms to talk about how you define the word marketing, are there questions about this first part? No?
I have just a comment that the recording in the past, I thought doesn't capture breakout rooms. But if Karrie comes and visits your breakout room, I might be following her in, and the recording follows me around. So this will be like a little drone going around. So don't be freaked out if I come into your room and it says you're being recorded now.
Okay, yes, thanks, Ellen. I meant to point that out. All right. Then once you get your breakout room assigned, you'll have about 4 minutes to work on that, how you define the word marketing. So here we go, breakout rooms, 4 breakout rooms. And I'm not going to assign you or me to a room, Alan.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. Opening all, nope, options. All right, I'm opening all the rooms. All right. Looks like every room has at least 3 people, so that's good. A couple of people are doing other things. Cool. Shall we visit a room?
Sure.
They've only just gotten started. Maybe we'll let them talk for a few seconds and then go in.
That sounds like a good idea.
Yeah. And all right, everybody has at least, all rooms have at least 4 people. That's good. Okay, let's pop into room number 1. You ready?
Yep.
Joining a
Will identify not just your product, but your presence as well.
Okay.
People popping in
Creating
and out.
awareness and creating a image in
yeah,
people's
good.
minds about what your organization is, and hopefully what they think it is what you want them to think, that there's some agreement on their perception of you or your reputation and what you are offering.
As well as your product or service, whatever it is you're trying to sell them. Yeah.
All right. You feel like you don't need the amount of time I gave you, because I could close the rooms early.
I don't know. I may want to ramble for a while. When I do something like this, I contrast philanthropy with marketing. In other words, begging, which all of us nonprofits do, and saying, just please give me because I'm a good entity, a good thing, a good person, versus marketing, which means I've got something you want, and therefore let's do business together.
My line was always, it's for the children, when I was asking for something.
Did it work always?
Usually, not always. Some people are very hard-hearted.
I think, yeah, but I agree with Ken. That's more philanthropy.
Yeah.
Marketing is you want to actually show benefits and benefits to individuals. You want to get in their head and you want to tell them how they are going to benefit from this experience. You know, their child is going to Harvard. Just kidding. But like something, you know, a benefit to them, not a benefit to others, is usually what gets people to get involved.
I'm going to pop out of this room, Alan. Let's pop in and see what some of the room is doing. So we'll see you all soon.
Okay, it looks like I muted everybody.
That's
but
why I forgot it. It
did.
mutes you.
I didn't mean to do that.
So let's pop in quickly to room 3.
I think I hit the wrong button.
Meeting is being recorded.
Well, I was trying to follow Karrie into room 3, but obviously failed.
Okay, are we all back?
No, I don't think so.
I just see Alan and Karrie. It's the three of
Okay,
us.
I
Did
see
you
you,
dump
Amy.
everybody else?
How did that happen?
Huh,
I'm
maybe I
gonna
have to. Let's
close
see,
all
I'm
rooms.
closing all the rooms.
Okay, you do
Okay.
that, yeah.
Oh,
The
oh,
countdown showed,
yeah, it did.
and then it
I'll
looked
break
like
out.
our room closed.
I wonder if I can close it earlier because it's saying 50 seconds now, 49, 48.
Okay.
Well, now I know to do this when the countdown happens. But people are coming back.
Yeah, I thought it happened automatically when that countdown finished.
Yeah, I did too.
I did too. But you know what? They're always upgrading Zoom. You never know what it's gonna do.
Yeah, I'm out of practice for this.
But Amy, you know, we haven't had any Zoom bombs lately.
Thank God.
Oh, that was
That
terrible.
came across my feed recently. I'm like, oh, I remember that.
That was brutal. Okay, let me. So this is where we recap, and I'm gonna try to capture people's ideas here in the chat. So if your group would like to share how you define the word marketing, I will try to type. I'm ready.
I was in room 4, and we were a great mix of volunteer planetarians, independent people, science centers, college. So we all have different methods of marketing, but I think the general understanding of marketing is a way to inform other people of what you're doing. Not necessarily your products, but mostly like your services.
Okay. But it can be products as well.
It could be products. It depends on what the individual planetarium is doing.
Okay. Other ideas?
I wanted,
Oh, sorry, go
I just wanted to add that sometimes those other people are, if you're in a museum and you're just one component of it, sometimes the other people are the directors in your own institution who may need to be prodded to know what's going on in your planetarium and how wonderful it is.
I'm just gonna say you need to know what you're doing.
You need to
How
market
wonderful you are.
to your colleagues.
Did I catch that good enough?
Well, group 1 talked, of course, about the image building and branding and that sort of thing, as well as advertising of various products. But a number of us talked about the difference between marketing as a way to get funding and people through the doors versus philanthropy, which is another way to get money through the door sometimes. But the difference is that in philanthropy, you're just asking, and in marketing, you're ready to exchange a product or service for the interest or the dollars or whatever it is that people are doing.
Okay. I'm going to do kind of shorthand there. So you'll know Phil is philanthropy there. Good.
Karrie, have you been and I'm not seeing anything in the chat.
Oh, because I haven't hit enter after each one.
Yeah, okay.
So I did the first 3. That's right. I was thinking everybody saw what I was doing.
Yeah. And I also kind of lost the sign-in sheet, but well, I think it'll capture it later when we
Okay.
close.
Oh, because the recording stopped probably.
Possibly.
All right. So there's 3 ideas about marketing. Do we have others?
Hi again. I was thinking maybe along the lines of kind of piggybacking off of everybody else with services and products, but communication of said services and products. Maybe it's not necessarily that you're in the market of selling products, but your products could market your services. So if it's selling merchandise or T-shirts and stuff that promote your.
I think I kind of froze.
Oh, sorry. Am I frozen? Or. Oh, okay. Yeah, so piggybacking off of pretty much what everybody else has said, it's products and services, just like the book definition. And we seem like we're in the service industry and providing a service for our end users. I think Greg in our group said that marketing is the newer term for, he said he's a little more seasoned, and that advertising was the name he would use instead of marketing.
Interesting. So I have to admit, my internet connection is having a little bit of trouble. So I lost some of what you were saying. I don't know if I probably seemed frozen to everybody. But Greg, can you tell us a little bit about what the difference in your mind between advertising and marketing is? I know Greg, so I'm going to put him on the spot.
Thanks, Karrie. Well, I guess advertising might be a little bit more of a narrow focus. And because I kind of see them as sort of equivalent. That's my mindset. But
Okay.
but as I was listening to other people, I realized that advertising is probably more of a narrow thing, because because in my time, in my dotage here, I don't, we didn't have all these other social media things that people use now. So your advertising was, you put ads in the newspaper or on the radio or television, and that was that was the big focus back in the day. So now it seems like there's many more ways of getting the word out about your services and products.
And we'll come back to that later. Okay. If I captured this, advertising may be more narrowly focused than marketing. Advertising seems to connote that it's in print or on TV. I should have fleshed that out a little bit more, whereas marketing is more, it goes beyond that. Does that catch it well enough?
Usually you have to pay for advertising too, whereas marketing, you don't necessarily have to pay for marketing.
Other things you'd like to capture? No. Well, let me show you chat here. When I think about marketing, for me, it reflects selling. It encompasses everything that a company is doing to promote the buying or selling of products and services. And some of what we talked about, or some of the comments that I captured, it's a common point of confusion, I think, that marketing and public relations are the same thing. So before we move on, I wanted to talk just quickly about what public relations is. Because marketing is a part of public relations, but public relations, you can see it there as a strategic communication process that builds mutually beneficial relations between organizations and their public. So public relations is not aimed at selling, whereas marketing is. You can see that definition is from the Public Relations Society of America. I figured they probably knew what they were talking about. And the way that I think about that is what I'm doing right now is actually public relations for Digitalis. I'm not selling any of our products. I am, however, contributing, hopefully in a positive way, to our image, to Digitalis's image in the marketplace, to my public, my people, that's all of you. Does that make sense? So we're going to be focused on the selling of products and services. And then, see, it's almost like I'm psychic. Somebody mentioned branding earlier. You probably heard this term. Branding is when you're aiming for a consistent look, a consistent message, so that people associate this particular icon, for example, or this particular set of colors with your company, or it could be a tagline. And the next slide, I used one sample that I suspect you're all going to recognize. What company is that? I can see everybody mouthing it. It's Nike, of course. Yeah, you can get it from either the Nike swoosh on the right, or from the tagline of "Just do it." And I think that they've done a really effective job getting that out there, associating that image, which is actually, you know, I saw an Amazon truck earlier. It's not dissimilar to the Amazon logo, and yet I always recognize the Nike one. So that said, we're going to get back into our small groups. And this is where we're going to break it down a little bit more. I would like you to think about what marketing methods have you used? And if you haven't used any yourself, if you don't do marketing for your organization, think about what you've experienced. We've all had marketing thrown at us. So think about what you've experienced and think about what worked and what didn't work. So I'm going to give you a little bit longer this time because we do have 2 things to discuss. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes and then I'll do a 1-minute warning. And I'll pop in, and if it seems like we need more time, I'll adjust it. Any questions about this? No? Figure out, I keep there. Oh, Zoom is so finicky on this computer. Okay, here we go. Back to the breakout rooms. Breakout rooms. I'm going to close 5 minutes. Notify me when the time is up. Okay, I'm just talking myself through this. I think we're good. And those are your 2 questions. What have you used? What worked? What didn't? All right, here you go. Enjoy.
Hey, Alan.
Hey, Jeremy.
Hey, Jeremy. We should put you in a breakout room. Let's see if I can assign you. I'm going to assign you to a room that only has 4 people. I'm going to put you in room 4, Jeremy. Assigned to room 4.
Now, the first time we visited a room, it worked really well. And then when I tried to go to another room, things got confused and the chat disappeared. So I'm not sure what to do about that.
Yeah, hopefully hopefully it comes back, because that's where I was capturing all the ideas too.
Yeah, I think it should come back in the meeting. Maybe it'll be separate chats.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, actually, I'm not seeing the history, and I'm not seeing the stuff that I just typed up.
You don't see the stuff on defining marketing?
Yeah.
I still see that.
Do you? Okay.
So
Well, that's good, because I'm not seeing anything. Well, shall we pop into room 4, see what's going on there?
okay.
Start at the other end? All right.
Also, all of our ticket stubs are a $2 off coupon for your next visit to the planetarium. So that draws a couple of people back.
So because I'm all on my own, I have to do all of it. And the one, I mean, talking about branding, when I started off 20 years ago, whatever it was, I branded myself, and then I had a logo, or I don't know what you call it, a logo or whatever, of Star Science Theater, because I do astronomy, I do science, and I do theater. And it became that I don't know whether I am Star Science Theater, or the branding has become sort of intertwined with me. I do use Instagram, Facebook, and I used to use Twitter. I'm a little mad at Twitter now for political reasons. But in the past, I've sent out press releases. And I have to say the thing that works best so far is, for me at least, has been Facebook. I know that sometimes when I'll send out a release a week or so before I go to a town, I will get, they'll say, well, we were hoping to have 30 people, and they'll get 75 people, and they go, we don't know what happened. And I say, well, it might have had something to do with the fact that I did use Facebook, as to do some marketing. And I'm looking at you, Dario.
Well, for us, as you already know, I don't do marketing. The Science Center people do that. We have some small feedback from them. I know videos on social media work better than still pictures. Just text doesn't work. We have a regular newsletter that brings some people in. Not much, not many. And Google and word of mouth are two important factors.
Rosemary?
So I was struggling a little bit between the difference that Karrie was pointing out. I mean, I think our planetarium is trying to become a community resource. It's free. And so a lot of what I feel we do is just trying to make the community aware that we're there and we're functioning and we're doing these things. And hopefully they'll put in some donations or they'll start using. In the more specific marketing area, we just use all the free stuff to promote the shows, the public shows, not the classrooms. We do that through the schools. But so it's a newsletter that people can sign up for. It's Facebook, website, and public calendars.
They should be coming back. Give them an extra 90 seconds or so that group seemed like they were still having good conversations.
Did you notice that John Elvert came in?
Yes.
And
I tried to put him in room 1. He hadn't
Okay.
accepted the invitation. So
Okay. Well, hopefully he, well, I don't see him now, so
yeah.
Hopefully he didn't get confused and leave.
I did the same thing that I did for Jeremy, and it worked for Jeremy. So
Okay. Well, we'll find out.
at least I got a 50% success rate.
And we're starting over with the chat again. So
Are we? Okay. Now we know. Okay. Everybody back. It looks like it. And John made it. All right. So ideas. Why don't we talk about marketing techniques first? Some of the ideas you came up with. Getting the word out.
All right, one thing in our group, Dario had a good comment that social media is really good and key, and video is better than a still image. So that, especially on social media, that will attract a visitor's eye more. So if you have the ability, make a little video.
Okay. Other comments or ideas for how you might get the word out? So we got social media. That's a good tip. Moving images are good.
Several people had mentioned community calendar kinds of things. Putting your upcoming events depending on how long a lead time is to get them into print mostly, but a lot of them are digital now.
Yeah. And those are often low cost or even free.
Mm-hmm.
What else?
Another idea is to make news.
Mm.
For instance, well, start a fire at your planetarium or whatever. But
that might be going a bit too far.
Better is to, for instance, 1 year ahead of an eclipse, like this April 8th, do a press conference, make some news, get some media, get some buzz going on out there, back it up with information on your website about what's going to happen in 2024 and so on. But just decide to look at what the news is doing, another shooting, another blah, 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 and make some better news.
Yeah.
And I was going to say that our group talked a little bit about, just the old school of just calling one person up at a time and one school up at a time and visiting them even. And, even today, when we're talking about, social media gets millions of views or whatever, your YouTube video can get thousands of views at a time. But for me, in my work, a lot of my most effective campaigns are really just contacting one person at a time and saying, hey, I have stuff for you.
Yeah.
You might be interested in what I have. And so, I guess it's a little different for me because I'm not asking for money, but the idea is that when I'm trying to ask for participation, when I'm asking for engagement, is my key revenue guess.
Yeah.
And if I'm looking for engagement, I find that the best way is just to reach out one-on-one to people and say, hey, by the way, I have this.
Yeah, that makes people feel really special. And I would say, Jeff, and although you're not asking people for money, you need people to use what you have in order to keep your job, right? So that counts. Definitely counts.
Yeah, it's I've looked up the attention economy, right? It's your attention is almost as valuable, if not more valuable these days, which is why you get all these free services, but you are the product, right?
Someone in our group mentioned tie-ins to popular culture, giving Harry Potter and Star Wars as examples. And then there's tie-ins to astronomical events, conjunctions, eclipses, things where people are actually looking for something. And if you're there with something, they'll notice you.
Yeah. Mars as big as the full moon, right? The media likes to talk about that.
And Greg, were you saying that you still do just regular mailers, post office mailers?
Yes, I am extremely old school with that. Although it has proven to be effective. I do mailings, postcard mailings to schools, advertising my services, and after every time I've done that, people respond. So as I did talk about in the group, the biggest challenge I have is figuring out who they need to go to. So it is a bit of a hit or miss that way, but I've always tended to avoid emailing campaigns because I hate getting lots of email that may not be relevant to me. So postcard is colorful and visual, and sometimes it gets a little more notice, I think.
Harry, do they still have those? Does post office still give sell those mailing lists for your local community? I think they do.
There
right?
are places that will do that. Yeah, you can buy lists based on zip codes, or there's a whole bunch of different data services. Like we target a lot of schools, and so I might want to hit the curriculum developers, and so I can just buy a list of curriculum developers in whatever states or all over the US if I want to. Yeah, I've never bought it through the post office though. That would probably work well for somebody like Greg that's advertising to a very restricted geographical area, because we sell all over the world. It hasn't come up.
Yeah,
so
my
much
parents
for
used
me.
to run a Chinese restaurant, and I would be sitting at at home. One of my jobs would be to stuff the envelopes for menus, and they would just
Wow.
come in with like a giant list of mailing labels from the post office,
Yeah.
and we would just stick them on and mail them out.
Huh, that's cool.
Another way to do that without paying all that postage and doing all that that work of running down addresses and such yourself is to find a community insert sponsor. In other words, we've all got those bills coming in for our telephone or power or whatever in the mail. And every now and then you see that insert for the local opera or whatever it is. Make a brochure, provide it to that utility or whoever it is that might be doing that mailing, and piggyback on their mailing lists. It's, you know, they've got thousands of them out there. You can get them just for the price of printing once you make a friend at that utility.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah, around here we get bundles of coupons. And so every once in a while they'll pop in an ad and say, do you want to advertise here?
Yeah.
And if you're going to make a poster, you know, NASA content is for the most part free to use. So put a nice James Webb Space Telescope image on your brochure or a postcard or whatever, and I'm sure people are more likely to hold on to it.
There's a new organization, I don't know how new it is actually, but an organization called the Library Telescope Program.
Oh, yeah.
And they have a list online of every library in the country that has been able to get one of their telescopes. And I've been sending, and it hasn't, I think I've gotten one, but I've only been doing this for a couple of weeks. I've been sending to them, telling them, you know, your library has a telescope. Wouldn't you like to, you know, do something together to promote the telescope and offering your help or whatever? So it's pretty extensive. I don't know. There must be, 2,000 libraries in the country that have telescopes now.
That's great. A big one that you may have talked about in your groups, but I haven't heard here is word of mouth. So get people talking about you. I mean, that might be like Ken was talking about, get in the news, start talking about an eclipse a year before it happens, start people preparing for it. Word of mouth is free and can be your best friend. So figure out how to leverage the people who are already coming to your planetarium and get them to bring people back with them. All right. Other ideas that we haven't.
I'm just in a unique situation where we're housed in a high school, but across the street we have the community college that has a poetry society. So we're not currently up and running. As of yet, we're doing all the upgrades that are necessary for our planetarium. So one of the conversations I'm having with the local universities is having some kind of space poetry slam, where people that can create that poetry and they can come in and do that under a dome. And now that little group can create that kind of like, I don't know, they can kind of drive the message like, hey, let's do something at this planetarium. And it's not necessarily all space-based, but it kind of is because, you know, they're coming up with the creative aspect of it. We have performing arts academies within our school district. So I was thinking something under the stars that they can actually perform some cultural work, and we can do that for showing for parents and get the word out through the community that way. But because we're not up and running and there's nothing that has been concrete or created yet, these are just ideas that hopefully when we are up and running, we can try to run with and get that word out through different venues, not just all right, look, if you're just interested in a space show, well, you know what, let's get these arts people in, let's get some other people in that want to speak, and maybe, you know, kind of gearing your programming to get as many people in as possible, and that's you're varying your audience now.
Yeah, you know, you can also have schools or slices of the public get involved in those art projects. So you give a school, a local school that comes to the planetarium as a part of, or some part that makes them feel they're contributing to what you're trying to advertise. For example, the school brochure. Why can't a school take on a project of designing the brochure, or help in some way to be more integrated and more active in what you're trying to promote?
I love it's kind of thinking the same idea of getting maybe an art contest where students can design kind of logos for stickers that you could hand out or promote, productions or presentations later on. But now that's student driven, or that's somebody else is making that. Maybe you have little mini contests throughout your communities that, like you're saying, create a brochure, create some artwork that can get posted, and maybe offer them free admission to a show for the winner, or their families can come in and watch a free show. But they've created some artwork, but it's not just them, it's their entire class or their entire school or a district. And it's just spreading the word as easily as you can, and it's all free. So one email to one principal gets the word out.
Yeah, have a contest.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, the California Academy of Sciences actually did that. They have a whole gallery of awardees from different schools in the area, and just right outside their dome, actually. So it's pretty interesting. Yeah. And I was just going to go back to what Karrie was saying about NASA can't buy advertisements, so everything that people hear about us is earned media, is the term we use, earned media. And first of all, thank you all for being part of that earned media, first of all. And to take a page out of the NASA book, it's a lot of getting local celebrities even. So NASA gets a bunch of national celebrities if they can, but everyone has their own local celebrities. Social media influencers are all over the place nowadays. If you can get one of those people to amplify your message on their platform to their followers, hopefully or in your area, they could be like news anchors or weather people on the news or whatever, and getting them to kind of cover and experience your services in a more targeted way that is just more cost effective than trying to do people at one person at a time.
Ellen, were you going to say something?
Oh, yes, sorry. I had a couple things, not stuff that I mentioned in the group, but Carlos's words reminded me of stuff on the subject of having strictly astronomy stuff in the dome. We are currently using our space for educational activities outside of strictly astro. So this past fall, there's a biotech curriculum group here at the Lawrence Hall of Science, and they worked with some other local developers to put together a full dome show about sickle cell disease and CRISPR. CRISPR being locally relevant because Jennifer Doudna here at UC Berkeley worked on it and won the Nobel Prize. So we had this planetarium experience that was all human biology and was super cool. That was offered to middle school field groups. So that made extra money for the hall. And then another thing was just on the idea of having contests that involve the planetarium or people outside of our staff developing stuff for the dome. I definitely have dreams, since we are housed on a university, of there being some kind of make your own planetarium show summer college course that would be really cool to offer to undergrads.
That sounds exciting.
Yeah, the Adler Planetarium does that. They have a whole summer course where they invite people to make a planetarium show.
Get some
And
fun ideas
laser
there.
concerts. There's some places that have taught kind of laser programming in a summer camp for middle schooler and high schoolers.
And Ellen, you all are using open space, right?
We're using a combination of things right now. We're still doing a little bit of Skyscan, some Digitarium, and ultimately we're making a transition into open space. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, open spaces would be great for a program like that because it is open source and anyone can learn how to program it.
All right, we got a lot of good ideas here. Scanning back through these. Awesome. I feel like we kind of hit some good and bad points as we went along, and I still have a few other things I wanted us to do. So I'm going to go back to my slides here. And then we talked a little bit about that. So I wanted to spend just a couple minutes talking about a way that we here at Digitalis think about framing our marketing, because I think it might be helpful for you. One of the things that we started doing probably about 15 years ago at this point was to think about problems that people have and then how we might solve those problems. And so I am up here in the Seattle area, which today is an unusual day for February. It's actually bright sun. Usually it's cloudy. And so a problem that we would have here is most astronomy organizations in this group are not going to bother organizing a star party this time of year because it's going to be clouded out. So a sample solution, I might point out that a planetarium can be used no matter how many clouds are in the sky. So problem, bad weather, solution, not weather dependent. It's gonna, you can use it whenever, wherever, no matter what's happening in the real sky. So I think because we have a reasonably small group, we only have about 20 people, we can do this all together. So think about some of the problems that your planetarium audiences might have, and how you can solve those problems. So what are some problems that your audiences might have? I have ideas, but I bet some of you do as well.
Light pollution.
Okay. Yep.
Mine have the problem of transporting the audience to a planetarium, whereas I bring the planetarium to them.
Exactly. Yeah, no paying for buses, no lost instructional time when the students are sitting on buses. Yeah, there's a lot of problems that Portable solve. Other ideas.
Teachers have the problem of trying to teach the night sky in the daytime. They can't get their kids into the dark together, but they can in the planetarium.
Yeah.
They also generally don't know the material well enough to take it on themselves.
True.
Yep. Yeah.
Right now, I think that a lot of people are seeing through their social media or newspaper, whatever, the Webb telescope just discovered whatever it is. Everybody's excited. Is that a big deal? I get calls from friends and neighbors and whatnot saying, well, what? I saw that much in the news, and now I want to know more about what it is or what it isn't, or how big a deal is that? Responding to the dreaded news media.
So I run a school district planetarium, and one of our issues was always trying to schedule teachers. So the way I found to be more effective was to go to the principals and just book an entire school to come. And that way I didn't have really to deal with the teachers and the 6 emails for each grade level. I could just go straight to the principal and get all the grade levels at once.
That's great.
I think one of the problems for busing students to the planetarium, there's a lot of issues, but you want to maximize what the planetarium can do during that 45 minutes or 1 hour that you have them. So one problem is to try to give information or resources to the teacher to kind of prep the students before they get there, so you can maximize the time of having a dome.
Yeah. I mean, there's a kind of a general problem in that astronomy is a hard topic to teach just from a flat screen or a flat textbook. And so having the context of the dome can help students make a lot more sense of the night sky. I think we all take that for granted, but it doesn't hurt to emphasize that in your marketing materials. And then another one that I thought of was if any of you market to scout troops trying to earn merit badges. There's a lot of the requirements can be difficult for the troop leaders to hit on their own, and you can help the scouts earn a badge. and help spread the word too, because chances are they'll go back and tell other people what they did in your planetarium.
It's getting very difficult to do that though, because of the Boy Scouts having their problems with sex, and it's just gotten very confusing for them. And I had to stop doing Boy Scouts because of it. And I hated it. I'd done it for like 20 years, and it just didn't make sense. I was not getting a single kid to get his badge because of all the requirements they had. Not the astronomy requirements, the requirements of me being with kids.
Oh yeah. Carol pointed out people want to bring crying infants into shows. That is a common one. Could probably go ahead.
Finding good programming for the different grade levels that are following next generation science standards.
Yeah.
Astronomy is not in every grade level. I think planets aren't even really talked about in NGSS until middle school, and yet all the first graders and the second graders want to come. But like I had first graders today, and space is not even in their curriculum, but the whole grade level came to my planetarium because they like it and we're close, and it was an easy field trip for them. So I appreciate that. I just want to be able to help them justify their field trip more easily.
Yeah. And one idea might be to look at hitting NGSS in different areas, which you probably do already, but maybe there's some physics or some earth science standards that you can target for first graders.
Yeah, I have to dig into
with science practices.
Yep.
I was going to say specifically with first grade, there was a teacher who said they have to show that the sky is the same around the world. So reminded me of Sesame Street, one world, one sky. Different places we still have the sky in common. I think they have to cover that, maybe not under the science standards, but under the Common Core. So.
Yeah, and Carlos pointed out that they work more with patterns, so recognizing the patterns in the sky. I know Patty Seaton has done for preschoolers and kindergartners that finding the various shapes in the sky, which can be a lot of fun. The kids get all excited, finding their triangles and squares and all that kind of stuff. All right. One thing I didn't put here in my program, but it's kind of builds on this, was thinking not only about problems that you can solve, but also how to remove barriers. And so I know that some museums have found sponsors to cover the cost of school buses, because the cost of school buses can be prohibitive for some schools to get to a planetarium. So that can be another way to frame your marketing message. I recognize this barrier. Here's how I'm going to help you get around it. All right. We are just about done. So the last few minutes, and it is indeed the last few minutes, I just wanted to talk briefly about making a marketing plan. Now we have quite a range of people here. Some of you have marketing departments, some of you are the entire company, and I can relate to that. I remember the early days when it was just two of us here at Digitalis. But in general, what you want to do, if you have a marketing team already or a marketing person, get to know them, find out how you can work together. What are their processes and procedures? But then a big thing that you can help the marketing department or the marketing person communicate, if need be, is that message. What are you trying to say? And before you can even really focus in too much on the message, you need to think about who you're marketing to. You're going to use different tactics, different wording for a Cub Scout or a Girl Scout troop, for example, rather than for homeschools, for example. So think about your audience, and that can help inform your message. I would recommend not being too generic unless all you're going for is a public audience, and then you want to be pretty general. If you're targeting very specific kinds of people, like school groups as well, public as well as homeschool, then I would target my marketing efforts to those different categories. Different marketing tactics might make more sense for different audiences, and that may seem obvious. But for senior citizens, for example, you're probably not going to use TikTok. Maybe you will. I don't think I would, but just keep that in mind when you're thinking about how you're going to target these people. An obvious one is your budget. How much do you have to spend? There may be somebody that has to decide that for you, gives you the money or the dollar signs to work with. And then a big one, how are you going to know if your efforts are successful? Right? Especially if you're if you're in a place that doesn't have unlimited marketing funds, which is most of us, you've got to have a way to show that it's worth the investment. And then the last one that I wanted to end with, you may have heard this term, a call to action. When we think about our marketing efforts, we always think about what do we want somebody to do when they see our ad, when they are on our website, what do we want them to do? And so some things that you might want people to do for your planetarium programs is buy tickets for a program or sign up for an email list. And I'm open to ideas. You may have ideas for other calls to action right here. This is actually my last slide, except for my contact info. So if you do have ideas for calls to action, we can take a minute and talk about those. We've got a good collection of people here. What should people do? What do you want them to do?
Karrie, for you all, do you still find that email is still one of the most effective ways to get people to engage?
Yeah, I started doing a lot more email marketing during COVID. So that can be effective, but for us, because what we're selling is really an experience, conferences are probably still the most expensive, or most expensive, that was a slip there, effective, but also expensive way. I find that a lot of the people that we're marketing to don't really know what a planetarium is. And so they have to actually go in and experience it. So that's true for schools in general. But emails were good during COVID, of course. It can be hard to get the message right because people did kind of get inundated with emails. I still get a ton of unsolicited email. And Greg mentioned that he's had success with mailing out flyers and postcards and that kind of thing. And actually, we had worked with a marketing consultant who said that people were starting to respond better to hard copies than to email, just because it's unusual these days to have something mailed to you, a physical copy that you can look at.
I think another call to action is with the people who are already coming to your planetarium, especially for general public evening shows or something like that. Re-engage or engage them more deeply with your planetarium so they feel a part of it. For some, that means, taking the walnut or whatever and dropping it into the bin of which program type you want to see next, or checking a little card or dropping something into a different box, voting for anything about the planetarium. Which planetarium chair do you want us to buy next, and let them sit in chairs and vote and that sort of thing. Get them engaged, get them to feel a part of the planetarium, and they're more likely to come back.
Yep. Yeah, it can even be what should our next topic be? What should our next planetarium program be on? Give them a few options.
Yeah. More of this, less of that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Even a suggestion box, write in what you think we should be doing. Yeah. It makes them feel like they're part of the team.
Yep. Other ideas for calls to action?
Yeah, one idea I have, which builds off of all of us, I'm sure, having the shared goal that people go to a planetarium show and then they go home and go stargazing, and astronomy becomes a bigger part of their life after they've seen a show. So historically, we've given out little paper star maps that visitors use during a show and then they can use at home. And I think it'd be cool if we developed a hashtag that's on the handout and share on social media that you went stargazing, post a picture of you and your family out looking at the stars, and then we could monitor that hashtag as a way of seeing how successful we are.
I like that idea a lot. Yeah. Right. Any last ideas? No? Oh, by my watch, it is Oh, 3:03. So we actually went a little bit over, but if you have any questions or comments, I'm happy to hang out for a bit. Otherwise, I want to thank you all for being here. Thanks to Alan for organizing these and recording them and for inviting me to put something together. I hope it was helpful. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
thank you, Karrie. That was really wonderful. We don't have any hard deadlines, so we can stay open for a while more.
Okay.
And just in case the chat got messed up, the sign-in sheet, I would suggest putting your name again in the sign-up sheet just to, in case, especially if you came in late, just who you are and where you're from. But Karrie, that was great. This is we haven't had many workshops, so it's not much for me to say this is the best workshop we've ever had, but it is. It was a great workshop.
Well, thanks. Oh, I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
I did come in late, Alan. Was the sign-in sheet in the,
it's the chat? Yes,
okay.
Just
All
your
right,
name and where you're from in the chat.
Okay, thanks.
I'd be interested if anyone actually does any sort of web analytics for your websites. Does anyone look at those at all?
I try, but I haven't got it set up the right way. I'm pretty sure, because I can't identify really that. The thing is, the audiences don't. It's when you get a click from me, an institution, a library, a museum, a school, whatever, and it's just I can't figure it out.
I'm really happy to hear you say that, Mike, because honestly, me neither.
I don't know why you're happy about that, but
no, I mean it makes me feel better that I'm not alone is the idea. But yeah, when I'm looking at our web analytics, it's just like, what do I really care how many people click on this thing, right? Does that mean that they are actually engaged, or does it mean something else? Right. And even just for, Alan, like our YouTube video views, right? Like, what does it mean if somebody watched it? Does that mean that they actually got something out of it, or did they have it on the background? Like I struggle to make sense of web analytics.
The one thing that is a little bit easier to keep track of is if, like on Facebook, likes and shares. And if a lot of people share, especially share, but even if they just like, because once they like it, it ends up on their feed, so other people are seeing it. Now, you don't have any idea what that means, but at least you know that that you're generating something.
I'm also trying to figure out when is the best time to post something on Instagram or on Facebook so that the most people will see it. So,
Evening.
Evening?
5 to 9 is prime time. I've known that since like social media work in high school.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Is there a particular day of the week? Like if you're advertising shows?
I read Wednesday was a good day, but that's me.
Oh, really? Because
somebody else.
That's funny. Because that's when I chose to send out our weekly announcements for the Alliance.
Wednesday seems like it gets the most hits.
I've heard
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Jeff. I was just going to say, I've heard for email marketing to avoid Mondays and Fridays. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are the best.
I mean, for me personally, that was a personal decision because I have to write them and then I have to get them approved and then I have to send them. So like it doesn't even, I wouldn't even be able to do it on Monday if they asked me to.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for times, I mean, so because my audience is different. Mine is a professional audience, and so we just arbitrarily picked like 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock in the morning Pacific time to kind of try and get the whole continental United States. Like right when you get in on Wednesday, basically the idea is that you'll have this in your inbox, and people get in the habit of looking at it. But you guys will have to tell me how successful that is. And did anyone get the NASA calendars yet? Yes? Oh, you did? Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Wait, there was one sent to the hall addressed to John. John, do you want it? Can I have it?
You should have it.
One thing we didn't talk about in our group, but I thought about it later, is if you can get onto, somebody mentioned influencers or a radio, like a talk show, and do a call in. That was the most successful thing I ever had, but it was for Galileo. It wasn't for my planetarium, but I was doing it for the Dark Sky up in Michigan, and they had hoped to have 50 people. That's how many people their space fit. And I did a call in for their local talk show, and they managed to get almost 200 people. So I ended up having to do 3 shows with the people standing and literally in my lap. So it works really well, especially for people like us who know how to throw bull a little bit when you're talking to people in the public. But they're hard to get. It's hard to figure out who to do, where the radio stations are or who the influences are that are appropriate. And so that's confusing. If anybody can figure that out, I'd appreciate that.
I think that goes back to what Ken was saying about making your own news, right? Yeah. And from my experience, the news people, the local news people, they're always looking for more stories, for more local stories. So just reaching out has a lot of impact. And cold calling, right, is totally fine. And again, reaching one person at a time, it sounds tedious, but I find that the legwork is worthwhile. Just like you said, right, Mike?
The weather people seem to have more of an interest in that sometimes than the straight news people.
Yeah, interesting enough, the weather people, I'm not sure how this happened or if this was intentional, but the weather people on TV have kind of become de facto local STEM, correspondents almost. I don't know if anyone else has found that, but I found that that if I wanted to spread the word, I reach out to the local weather person first, and that has a good effect usually most of the time. When Carla dropped out, I was interested to hear about what Fisk does, because I think Fisk does a really good job in terms of marketing.
They do, yeah. They really do. But they're gone, right? Who was here from the Fisk? Yeah. I saw, who was it?
Carla.
Carla, yes, I met her at Lips last year.
It's just so great to see you all. I love just hanging out with you, everyone.
It's nice to hang out.
Yeah, it is. And we can hang out as long as we want, but I think I will stop the recording so that we can say anything we want without posterity.
Does that mean we can talk about it?